Hey, sorry, I had to make this a two-parter. So part two. Um, so yeah, I would just go through here and try to clean up some of this motion and make it, again, like I feel like here, I don't know, I'm not feeling like there's a lot of bending happening at the waist here on this move. Maybe there is on the chest, right? But I'm not feeling it at like the root of the spine, like throughout this move here. Maybe there is, I'm not sure. But if there's anything you can do to like loosen that up or make it feel like maybe, that this is still bent over a little bit more and that it's not all like coming and landing at the exact same time. Because here it feels like the chest, center of gravity, and everything arrives at the same time. And there's no like overlap where maybe what I think what would really make this feel more loose is like, the center of gravity arrives first before the chest is like fully straightened up. Yeah. Okay, I'll move on to the next section. Right, so that is this bit here. And I love the hookup with the head looking down. I think that's great. She leans forward away from the wall now, which is great. I'm not. Why does she have to lean forward away from the wall? Maybe it feels like the top half is leaning away from the wall, which again makes the whole chest and cog feel like it's connected, and that there's not actual like anything bending from the spine. So I could take a look at your file if you want, and we could get into this on a little bit more specifics, either in class or during an office hours. But I feel like this move would be done less with the cog and more with like the chest bending forward. It's hard for me to draw exactly like what I'm thinking, but like this part of the body here, like her pelvis and her backside, would move the least, right? Because I feel like that maybe is up against the wall, and like what's going to move the most is she's just going to bend at the waist, bend her spine forward, where this all feels like it's all just stiff, like it's one control in the rig moving forward. And it also feels like that's what's swinging the arm here. Like all these things feel like this move is being achieved from the neck down with just like one control, that cog control. And it really has to be like a considered sequence of things moving. Like she can bend her torso forward while this arm is like staying in the position where it was before. So if like, let's see, when we come into it, this is where the arm is. And I'm not sure that that is like the nicest posing for the arm. It would be best if we could maybe like try to get this out of the way a little bit more, because right now it's like ill-defined. It feels like there's a bend at the elbow, but I'm not really sure. And then it goes perfectly forward with the body. And then I know in class we talked about it maybe still being on screen. Maybe we're seeing it. And again, I'm not the best at drawing hands from all these like difficult angles, but the idea is like maybe we see the hand like prepping to reach down into this belt area and to grab the grenade. You know what I mean? Once the body comes to a rest. But yeah, this just feels like the cog is rotating forward, and that's kind of like dragging an FK arm out of screen. And that once the head and neck get down in this area, that they're also like not being animated at all. And we have to be careful of like eye trace. We're gonna have to get in here and make her eyes feel like she's looking, here. And so I feel like maybe at this beginning pose, Yeah, we're gonna have to, like here it feels like she is staring maybe not quite back there, but back enough. I'm not sure. You're gonna have to play around with it and make sure it looks like she's her gaze, because the audience isn't gonna know where to look unless this is like very specific to like looking right here. This is the star of the show. If we're gonna show it poking out here, that's the star of the show. Cool. And then yeah, like pulling it forward here, this is working pretty nicely. It would be nice, of course, to get a little adjustment or something on the rest of the torso, just some keep alive, so this isn't all just like frozen pixels in space, because you can really see that it's like completely frozen as she's moving her arm up, that there's no like body movement. And her eyes, she kind of has like these doll eyes because they're not tracking anything independently from her head. So we really need all that stuff animated and worked out. And it would be nice to give some sort of expression change here to show like what is she thinking about this grenade, what is she feeling, like what do you want, what's her internal dialogue that you're trying to communicate to the audience. Like her mouth is the same mouth as before she pulled it out, her expression is the same. So we got to get in here and like really work through the body properly, not just be moving things with just a minimal number of controls, but get that mechanics working right. You're also going to need to move this grenade or this canister with her as she leans forward, because right now it seems like it's detached from her body and just floating and frozen in space, and we really want that to feel like it's attached to her body until the hand comes in and picks it up. So if we're doing this pickup action, we're going to need to see the hand like kind of come here off of the grenade, anticipate grabbing the grenade, maybe show some fingers like wedging in between the skirt and the grenade here, and then we're going to need to see it gripped around the grenade here and like fully describe this action properly. It's going to need probably more frames, because right now it just kind of like pops. The hand's just off screen and the grenade just kind of pops off of the body into the hand, and then the grenade and hand go off of the screen also. So I would have her grab it here and then have the hand and grenade like come onto the screen here. You know, I don't think there's any benefit to us like actually having the hand and grenade go off the screen. So all this feels like kind of under animated and kind of like cheated in a way that doesn't really like support the story in any way. Anyways, yeah, this shot we talked about before, how it like comes up and drifts down. I see that now it doesn't come up as far. So let's take a look at this shot. All right, I think this is getting there. I think there's a little bit of spacing stuff happening here where we're going from here to here back down without really an ease out, and then it's like a really, so we probably need to put in an ease out onto this move here, because this spacing is like big, and then we're already moving into the opposite direction. So that spacing isn't really going to work. So this is kind of the spacing where we're going in here, in here. We need to like slow down and like come to a stop before we kind of like go in the other direction. You know what I mean? So that could use like a little bit of love on that shot. Cool. I love that you included your reference. Thank you for that. So let's take a look at what your reference is doing and what she's doing. So if you look at like what your torso is doing here, there's a little bit of reaction and everything to this shaking motion. And you've toned down what you had before on her by a lot, which is good. I feel like this gun is like jumping all over the place throughout this motion, so we may want to settle that down. Because that gun's going to be pretty heavy, right? Like it's made out of metal. It weighs a lot, but it's kind of like twisting and flipping here a bit. And it's good to have a little bit of motion, a little bit of keep alive in it. But right now it's pretty active for all this. Also, like her head and neck and everything is still moving lockstep with like the rest of her body. So it feels like maybe there's a lot of keys on this chest controller, but we're just letting this come along for the ride and not really like countering it or putting it in a mode where it's in like global orient, or I'm not really sure what your rig is capable of doing. But as her torso moves around a lot, the head's going to want to be more stable than this, you know what I mean? Also, she has like that doll eye problem, so we need to like direct her focus to wherever it would be, whether it's at the grenade. Like here she looks like she's looking straight down, but if that focus, you know, maybe it should be more on the grenade, or maybe her focus would be more about like what she's about to do with the grenade. That is a choice up to you. Like here, it almost looks like she's looking at the grenade, but it feels like she's looking past the grenade at something off in the distance. If you can, clean up the penetrations between the fingers and the canister so that that's like solid. I like how in your reference you're throwing it like here where your face is still visible. I wonder if that might be a better choice here, but I'm not sure. You know what I mean? Maybe you can keep it up like this, but it doesn't, the way that you're doing it in your reference feels a bit more like authentic, you know? She also reels back, like your body, if you see, you're starting to like lean forward and get like this nice line of action on your throw, where with her, she leans away from it, not like into it. So here your arm can be anticipating the throw, but your body could be anticipating like the next part of the throw, right? So as the arm recoils, like what you're doing. I mean, this is probably pretty extreme. Again, I don't follow my drawings; they're just used to communicate. But to get like a line of action, so that when you do release it, we don't have to jump over this far this quickly, right? And again, this feels a lot like it's just a stiff spine coming out of a single controller that's being used on the cog, not really like a fully resolved anim. Same thing, like when she pulls up here, it would be maybe a little bit nice to have the gun show that the gun has a little weight by having it not come up at the exact same timing and spacing as the body, you know, but to have it like lag behind a little bit. So when it comes up, it'll kind of like straighten the arm. It'll look like it has weight and it's not super light and easy for her to move around. This is really cool. I love the arc that the grenade is taking coming out of here. That's really nice. You may need a little bit more like follow through in the arm to convince me of this, because right now it kind of like, let's see, the arm motion seems to stop the minute like the grenade releases from the hand, instead of continuing like kind of back and up in this direction. You know what I mean? And then moving on to this stuff, this is going to need like certainly a tightened down pass. I think you know that. Like here the magazine seems to be like kind of leaving before she grips on it, her fingers are passing through the magazine. Um, there's no sense that her fingers are like tightening around the magazine. But I think that's just because you haven't gotten to like really block this stuff out fully yet. You know, there's possibly, yeah. So everything seems like the idea of it's here, but again, like that's not a grip on the magazine. The magazine's going through the hand and all that stuff. So, and then this like slap, I think her hand probably needs, like the gun is coming down before the slap. We'll talk about this once you get a little bit further on it, maybe, and get some of that grippy stuff. I don't know if you're using a lot of constraints to constrain magazines to hands and stuff like that, but let me know if you need help with that too. We can do office hours or whatever you need to like kind of get everything put together here. And again, like here, there's no anticipation of the grip. You know what I mean? So yeah, this just needs some more time, some more love. All right, but cool. Keep an eye on the calendar, keep an eye on the deadlines and the time you need to put into this to bring it home. But yeah, it's got a lot of potential to be really cool, but we got to get these things like fully animated and not just be doing like one or two controls to try to describe some of these actions. You know, it's going to need like a full-on mechanics pass across the run of it. All right, look forward to seeing your submission next time and see you in class.